In today's show, Jason Quick of The Athletic joins the program, and we talk about Blazers expectations, the early excellence of Jerami Grant, and where this team might be headed. It's a fun one. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen every day, 5 days a week, the only daily Trailblazers podcast, free on all platforms. Start your day listening to Locked On Blazers. It's your team every day. Today's episode, a very special one, is the triumphant return of friend of the program and friend in real life, Jason Quick, a senior writer for The Athletic. JQ, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Mikey Mike, always like jumping on your show. I'm doing well.
I'm glad to hear it. We gave you the summer off, but now the season's back and you got to come back on. We're calling you back. We're calling you back in. We're calling for the righty from the pen. We need you to bring the heat. The Blazers are 9-4, 13 games in. You are listening to Tuesday, November 15th show on tonight's, depending on when you're listening to this. The Blazers play the San Antonio Spurs. Ahead of that game, they're 9-3, they're 6-2 on the road. What stands out to you the most through 13 games? I'll start really broad, and then maybe we'll dial it in from there, Jason.
The effort. They're playing their ass off every night, and to me, it just jumps off the court. And it's really refreshing to see, because I think especially for this fan base in Portland, that's something, that's all we ask. I think that's, year in, year out, just play hard.
Yeah. And
I don't know necessarily that we've gotten that on a consistent basis over the last couple of years, certainly not last year at the beginning. But this group, man, Chauncey Billups has them playing hard and playing together. And it's just really, I think that's why everyone's enjoying this season so much. Everyone I talk to brings it up that I love this team. It's so fun to watch. And I agree. It's been a very enjoyable product, but it's all rooted in just how hard these guys are playing.
Is that coaching? Is that just refreshed spirit after such, what do you credit that to? Or obviously it's a combination.
Yeah, definitely a combination. I think guys like Chauncey. I think that's become evident, and they want to play for him. But also, I think what is also, if I had to do a 1A to your first question, 1 would be effort, and 2 would be how much these guys like each other.
Yeah,
I think it's become really evident just in how they interact with each other, how much they like each other, and because they like each other so much, they want to play for each other. And so they want to cover for a guy if he gets beat. They want to rotate and help him out. And they want to make the extra pass to see him succeed. And they're happy when a guy goes for 30 or a guy hits the game-winning shot. So that spawns effort when you like your teammates and you have trust in your teammates. That helps. So but I think it all starts with Chauncey and them wanting to sell out for him and impress him and please him.
Yeah, it's like, I think in general, it happens to media types like you and I and fans. It's like, you want it to be one thing. Okay, Joe Cronin nailed it. He did this and he nailed it. Or, Chauncey Billups is this huge upgrade and he nailed it. This year Dame's healthy and that's the difference. Like, it's all of it, right? Like, I think Cronin did a pretty good job, but he wasn't even nearly as confident in this roster as it turned out to be. Like, in that media day, Joe Cronin was dialing it back. He was trying to get everyone's expectations turned down a little bit. It's just, there's something with this team, the vibe, the something you can't quite, maybe there's like an inexact science to just creating good vibes, creating a team that likes each other and plays for each other. And they've got it early in the season.
Yeah. And I think it's contagious. And that's the whole thing, like, about sports and teams, is you never know how everything's going to mix, how the personalities are going to mix, how the talent level is going to blend. And that's always kind of the wild card in all this. We've had the teams try to do the super team thing, and it just doesn't quite fit because of just weird things or, intangibles. And it's the other way here. Like on paper, this team doesn't look great, but when you put it all together and you blend everything and you get personalities and all that stuff, it does work. It clicks, and it's a beautiful thing when it happens. And I think I can't remember if it was a tweet of yours or something where you were saying like, hey, people, enjoy this, because basketball like this doesn't come around very often. The last time I remember having like this vibe and this feeling was that year with Nate McMillan, and when the Blazers really kind of broke out with that young crew. And that group loved each other. They loved playing with each other, and they played with such a verve and an excitement. And they were also kind of wide-eyed to the NBA life.
Right, because they hadn't been very good until then. They were, I think they were 41-41 the previous season, and they won 54 games or 52 games, whatever it was. They were just like, oh, we're really good now. It was different. You were obviously much closer to the team than I was then. But I was going to ask you, like, everyone says like this is the most fun team since, and everyone has like a different answer. And some people are saying like 1976. But that's interesting that what was it about that team that reminds you of this team, just sort of vibe wise?
Just kind of like it's such a raw joy, I think, like in the locker room. I haven't been in the locker room that much this year just because they're on that long road trip. I wasn't there, but just like observing them from afar, you can see just a general enjoyment of being around each other, the way they laugh and joke and tease. And there's just a closeness that comes from, a bond that you have on a team. Like for people who have played competitive sports, what I'm talking about. Like when you have a team that you love, and you guys just form kind of a bond that's hard to kind of explain. Like, I try to tell my wife about, I'm still friends with all my high school guys that I played baseball with and stuff. She's like, why are you guys still friends? You're 50 and you guys are still like, it's like, because we formed this bond of playing at a high level and playing in high games, high meaning games, and you develop bonds in that time. And but anyways, going back, I think that team with B-Roy and LaMarcus and Jarrett Jack and Travis Outlaw, Martell, all those guys, that's similar to this. But I think also that I think it was 15-16, that team that everyone thought was going to be terrible after LaMarcus and Rolo and those guys left. Wes, the team with Ed Davis and stuff, that team was really fun too, because nobody saw that coming, and they were all of a sudden, really competitive. They played their butts off, and they were kind of this blue collar, hard nosed, overachieving team, and that was very endearing, and that was a really fun season as well.
It was. I will always remember I was trying to write a story about that team, and I said to Ed Davis, like, when did you I was like, when did you start to believe? And he's like, I don't know, January, February. And I was like, and this was like late March, April, like right at the end of this regular season. I said, and where do you think you'd be right now? He's like, making vacation plans, dog. Like, he was like, I didn't think we'd be good. And that was like part of the reason why the team got along so well, is because it was like, oh, this is going to work. And they all got kind of bought in at varying points. And it was like, yep, we're going to do it. It's happened earlier with this group. And
I think too, like with that earlier group in the Nate McMillan era, like they didn't know, they hadn't been around enough to know that it was kind of special. I think a lot of guys on this team have been around enough and been through different iterations of different teams that they know that this is kind of special, that, hey, this is a pretty cool group. Let's make the most of it.
Well, it's like you look at like Justice Winslow. He's been on some really good teams. He's been on some bad teams. You look at Jerami Grant. He's been on a team that made the Western Conference Finals. He's been on some stinkers in Detroit. Like
Josh Hart.
Yeah, Josh Hart. Exactly. Been on some really bad teams and been on some teams that were much more successful. It's just a different, like, once you've been in the league 5-6 years, you kind of know, like, oh yeah, we aren't one of those groups. We aren't a group that's going to lose by 30 and have, have a bad month or whatever it is. Like and I think they appreciate it more. And then that, like the mixture of sort of like veteran know-how with sort of like young hopeful parts is really has made for a really compelling begin to this season. I want to ask you about Jerami Grant, because he's been so freaking good. And I think he's to me the biggest part of this season being so good has been Jerami. But first,
no question.
First, I want to tell my listeners about Sweat Block. Listen, if heavy perspiration is something that is a issue in your life, if it's just embarrassing or it's something that comes up from anxiety or whatever it might be, Sweat Block might be the antiperspirant solution for you. Sweat Block wipes were invented by a doctor and they're guaranteed to work or you don't pay. They call it the Sweat Block Dry Shirt Guarantee. If Sweat Block doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. So if you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block risk-free today. And you can save 20% with the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Plus, it's also available on Amazon. Today's show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Listen, Rocket Money is the super simple app that makes it easy to get your eyeballs on all of the descriptions you might have. You can cancel unnecessary subscriptions with Rocket Money today by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Seriously, it could save you thousands per year. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. Here's how it works. You sign up for Rocket Money. You click a couple buttons, it gets an eyeball on all of your subscriptions. And then from there, you can decide what you want to keep. If you want to cancel, it's one simple button. That's all you got to do. The app shows you all your subscriptions in one place and cancels what you don't want. So one more time, that's rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba, rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. All right. Still chatting here with Jason Quick, senior writer for The Athletic. Jerami Grant's been incredible this year, Jason. You compared him to, I believe you compared him to Ed Davis in a story you wrote earlier this year. What about Jerami Grant stands out to you the most?
His defensive versatility. The fact that he is guarding the point guards almost every night has changed the way this team can play defense. And it's been such a disruptive force that number one is why the Blazers are 9-4. It's because they're playing defense.
100%.
And he is spearheading the defense because he's taking on arguably the best offensive weapon on the other team. And, I talked to Chauncey Billups today about it at practice, and he estimates that, I thought it was like 9 of the 13 games that he's guarded the point guard. And Chauncey said, no, it's actually closer to 11 or 12, because at the halftime of the Dallas game, he made a switch and took Josh Hart off of Luka Doncic and then put Jerami on him. And he said, and that kind of messed with Dallas. Dallas had to kind of make an adjustment, and they started running different plays to get Jerami off of Luka because they wanted to avoid that. And that, that speaks a lot to Jerami's value and what he does. And Chauncey said, not only is he affecting the shots of the point guards because of his length and his spacing, but he's really disrupting their passes. They're not as on time and they're not as on target. And as a pass from a point guard, if it is just a little bit off target, or it is just a little bit late, that could be the difference in getting an open 3-pointer or an open shot or not. So he's really, the more they watch the film, he's really affecting the other team by the way he's defending the point guard.
And when you put him on the point guard, when they run sort of like normal pick and rolls with a big guy, you can just switch it with Jerami Grant, right? Like you can just say, okay, Jerami can go switch onto the big and it's not a problem. Like it allows you to continue to play the defense you want to play. Like he's been really, really, really good on defense. I think early on, it was like the first game of the year, he guards De'Aaron Fox down the stretch, and it was a game changer, right? Like his ability to guard De'Aaron Fox, like literally night one, but it felt like a little gimmicky. It felt like, okay.
He guarded him from the opening tip, though.
Yeah. But like, it felt like, I'm saying like the first game of the season, it felt like, okay, well, this is the Kings. they don't have really big imposing wings. Like they don't, it's like maybe this won't work against everybody. I think me and you definitely talked about it. It was like, could they have done this against other teams? It quickly got answered, right? Like they stuck with it. They worked against Phoenix when they asked him to guard Chris Paul. Like they've
Jamal Murray, Ja Morant. I mean, go down the line. He's guarded them all.
Yeah, exactly. He's been, I guess, 11 of 13 according to Chauncey Billups. I bet he knows. And the Blazers are, as we record this, this is before the games have started on Monday evening, but like the Blazers are 6th in the league in defensive rating. I mean, they're a top 6 defense. They've been a top 10 defense basically for, they started out really hot and then they kind of slipped. They had a rough game in there against Phoenix, but they've been, around a top 10 defense basically all year long, which I did not see coming. I thought this was going to be one of the 10 worst defenses in the NBA, and they've really, to me, that really stands out. The other part about Jerami Grant's game is that he can score by himself. He can you can throw him the ball and he can go get a bucket. And the Blazers have been missing that element.
I had no idea he could do that.
I wanted to ask you. Ask you this. Yeah. How much did you think? Go ahead.
Well, remember that Memphis game? As many of you know, Mike and I sit next to each other on press row, and so we have a little bit of dialogue through the game. And
Jason
when anything's notable,
that much. Jason gives me 8 opportunities to speak during a 2.5-hour game, so I got to get him in.
I like, if it's notable, I like to have a little conversation.
Sure.
If there's something I want to talk about, I talk to Mike about it. And I remember talking to you like that Memphis game at home. And it was the game that Jerami had 4 travels, but I just thought that whole game he was forcing it and trying to play outside of himself. I was like, you don't have that between the legs crossover, step back jumper. You just don't have that. And then the next game at Phoenix, he did have it.
Yeah, he had 35. He had 35. Yeah,
30 points. And then, and hit the game winner. But and then 37 against Dallas. I mean, he has been so good on both ends of the floor. And you're right. They haven't had a 4 like that who can just create his own shot. I mean, LaMarcus didn't really do that. LaMarcus just had his patented kind of turnaround,
Yeah, he had some unguardable
or the pick and pop.
Some unguardable offense, but Jerami Grant,
create your own shot.
100%. Jerami Grant can dribble into shots. He can run a pick and roll as a screener. He can run the pick and roll as a ball handler. He can score out of the post. He's probably shooting a little better than he's will for the year. He's shooting 46% from 3 on just over 5 attempts per game. I don't think he's
50% overall.
Yeah, exactly. He's shooting.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like he's got a cool 50 45 76 splits on 20 and averaging 20 points per game and almost 5 boards and almost 3 assists.
Yeah.
Like he's just been so good. I think he's going to shoot a little bit worse for sure.
Yeah. He's the most valuable player of this season. No,
I agree.
So far. I mean, Dame's probably still, the best offensive player, but as far as value and what you're bringing and how you've changed the team, the best player and the most valuable player has been Jerami. I mean, he has been exactly what they needed. And I just got done writing a story off of today's practice on kind of the origins of Jerami coming to, and it's kind of a story that most people, know a little bit, that Dame and Jerami struck up a friendship at Team USA and when they're at the Olympics in Tokyo. And but it really began then where Dame was tapping him on the shoulder on bus rides to the arena saying, we got to make this happen. We got to get you to Portland. And,
got to rescue you
when they got
Detroit.
Yeah. When they got back. And anyways, you have to read the story. It just talks about their kind of budding friendship, how it started there and how Dame could envision that this is the perfect 4 for our team. And boy, was Dame right. What he envisioned and what he saw in those practices and work ethic that Jerami had during that. He would stay after practices and work on his ball handling, work on his shot. And he's like, this guy would fit into our team.
Jerami Grant played in a high school tournament here that I covered back in the day when he was a junior in high school. I thought he was like the fourth best player on his team. So Dame is a better scout of talent than I am. Because I was like, this guy's athletic, but he's never good.
Well, I mean, he was drafted in the second round too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of. I think he's grown. I think he's matured his game.
Totally. And I think going to Detroit and getting to spread his wings a little bit as a number one option allowed him to be what he is now. Like that was probably too big of an ask, like him to be the best player on a good team. But as the second best player, he's been incredible. And when they've needed him to scale up, the game in Phoenix where he had 30, and then the game against New Orleans when he had 27, like he's ready for that responsibility in a way that probably is made easier by going to Detroit than making that jump from, say, like, okay, you're pretty good on this Denver team, but now like you need to be the guy, and there's gonna be nights when you need to score 20.
And another thing, like, so we've talked about how great he's been defensively, how surprised he's been offensively, and another element to all of this is he's really well liked by his teammates. He is so popular in that locker room. You know, it's JG this, JG that. They love him. And I asked Lillard about that today at practice, and Dame said, you know, there's not a lot of guys in the NBA like him, because, you know, there's guys who always think they can be an all-star or are always playing for a bigger contract, more money, and you can feel it with them. You can see it with them. They wear it. That, God, I want more. I want more. And Jerami never has that. He kind of always stays in his lane and stays to who he is, and he doesn't need more. He's not asking for more, and that the guys see that. They see that he has the talent and has all this. He could go out and score the 30 a night, you know. But he stays within himself constantly, and he's not a loud talker. He doesn't talk a lot about himself, and all that kind of exudes off of him and attracts people to him and makes him really likable. And so I thought that was a really cool observation, that, you know, you can sense when guys want to get an all-star bid or get a bigger contract or get paid more. And, you know, you could see it in different actions, by how they talk or by how they take shots or how they approach the game. And Jerami has none of that. And the guys recognize that.
He's mostly been just a chameleon. Whatever they need him to look like, he looks like in that game. Like he's been, and it's that's a real serious compliment at the NBA level. It's like, you don't need, you know, so many guys need this. Okay, you're gonna have a good game if you need this. And Jerami's had good games in a bunch of different varieties.
That's how you win in this league. You have 100%. Guys who can accept that stuff.
100%. I want to talk about this team's ceiling, because I think it has, for me, in 15 games, 13 games, it's changed. I want to ask you if you think it has as well. But first, I want to tell my listeners that this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. I play Prize Picks. I use the app because the app's easy, but you can also go to prizepicks.com, and it's super simple. You pick between 2 and 5 players, and if they go above or below the projections, you can win up to 10 times on every entry. Here's how it works. You're not competing against other people or you know, the field or anything like that. It's just you versus the Prize Picks projection. So they're picking, if you're a basketball person, they're picking points, rebounds, assists, steals. You pick over or under that line, and you can win some money. If you don't want to do the NBA, they got the NFL, they got MLB when it's in season, they'll have an NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, esports, NASCAR, you name it. You can make entries in 60 seconds, safe and fast withdrawals when you win, so you can get your money quickly and easily. And it's currently operational over 30 states and Canada, including Oregon, if you're a local listener here. So download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up today and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 when you use that promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, guess what? They're going to give you $50. So don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match. That's Prize Picks daily fantasy made easy. All right. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. And did I almost screw up my third segment introduction? Yes, I did. But we still made it here, and we're still chatting with Jason Quick, senior writer of The Athletic. Jason, when the season began, I thought the Blazers were a play-in team. I believe you wrote the same thing in an early season article I read on theathletic.com. Where do you think this team's ceiling is now, with the caveat that they got a whole bunch more games to play before this really starts to be a meaningful prediction?
I mean, I think definitely they've shown the brand of basketball that is playoff caliber.
Yep.
I think they're top 6 caliber right now. I think that is a legitimate goal for this team. Top 4, hosting a first round playoff game. I don't know if I'd like to see a little more before I go out on a limb and say this could be a top 4 team. But hey, man, like we said, this team plays hard. They've been playing defense, and look, they've been doing it without Dame every game, without Nurk every game. They've been filling the holes when they need to be. I mean, I think like Chauncey said today, on the road, 6-game road trip, he had the starting lineup once.
Yep.
The other times he was plugging and placing guys here and there, and that's a sign of a good team as well. I mean, Jabari Walker's giving them minutes.
Yeah.
Trendon Watford's giving them minutes. I mean, they're getting contributions up and down that roster, and that's how you sustain winning throughout the course of a long 82-game season. There really isn't a lot that this team hasn't shown yet. They've won on the road. They've won back-to-backs. They've won without key players. They've won with different guys winning the games with last-second shots. They've won close games. They've beaten really good teams. They haven't had a stinker yet where they've just gone and played it. The second Phoenix game was kind of.
It was, but it was kind of, they were so shorthanded, and you kind of knew that after they'd won. That was a stinker. I'll give them that. And the end of the Miami game, they didn't play well, but those are good teams. I'm talking you show up, if they lost that Charlotte game or something like that. It's like we show up against a team that you should win and all those things, and they just lay an egg. They haven't had a stinker yet. And some of the secret to making the playoffs in the NBA is just take care of business when it's right in front of you. And they have, and they've, come out with some great last second moments too. And you stack those on top of each other, and you are, as we're recording this today, are currently in top of the Western Conference standings.
Yeah. It's been really fun. Really fun.
It's truly I record 2.5 hours of audio content, video content a week, available on all platforms, 5 days a week, free wherever you get podcasts. But that's a professional plug, Jason. But it can be hard. There could be I'll bring it. I'll bring it to every episode. I'm proud of what I do. But there are some nights where I'm okay, let's go record a podcast. And we just haven't had that yet. I have not had, every time I've come down here, I'm heck yeah. This is going to be easy. This is going to be fun and enjoyable to talk about. Can I advocate for the devil who rarely needs advocating for? Do they have too many players? Is there a situation where the Blazers have too many dudes who deserve to play?
I don't think so. This is, I think, a veiled way of bringing up Gary Payton Jr., who hasn't even played yet.
Yeah, even before we get there, I think they have a lot, maybe more guys that can play on a normal night.
No, I don't, because what Chauncey says, how hard they play, you're going to need to shuttle in guys here and there. And then, as we've seen, especially in Portland over the years, guys get hurt, and you're going to need guys to be in there. So, no, I do not think so. And because I think, Chauncey's going to keep guys engaged is the sense I get. He'll give them little 5-minute spurts here, 6-minute spurts there. But I don't believe in that. I don't believe in you can have guys, because the guys who the end of the playing rotation are young guys. So it's not like you're putting a Josh Hart and giving him only 12 minutes a game. The only guy who's interesting in that equation, though, is Nasir. I feel like Nasir has kind of gotten shafted a little bit in minutes this year. He's gotten more recently, but I think that's just an indication of how valuable Josh has been. I think Josh has really become, Josh has really become a security blanket for Coach.
Well, he's such a good
I
tone
think he
setter.
loves playing him.
He's such a good tone setter.
He has a hard time getting him off the court because he brings so much and is so versatile and so, just as you say, sets such a great tone. So that has been, it's been more an indication of Josh's value than Nasir's lack of or quality of play. I think Nasir's been very good.
Yeah, especially recently, Nas has kind of like it's clicked for him. He was the first two games. It was like, oh no, like what happened to him? It was kind of, he was just rushing, and it's just he was making weird mistakes and felt like his feet weren't under him, but he got going, and the last week he's been really good. Josh Hart was playing over 37 minutes a game last week. They've come down a little bit. He was just a shade over 36, which is probably still a little too many, but not really that big of a deal. I think the issue comes from like with the too many guys, and we can now specifically talk about Gary Payton, I guess. Like Chauncey wants to play 9. He played last year. He would play kind of what I would call like a 9+, where he'd play 9 guys and then he'd give Tony Snell 8 minutes. So he will play 10 somewhere in there somehow, but he wants to play 9. And if you have 9, then there's a question with the back half of that, like if assuming everyone's healthy, with the Drew Eubanks, Trent Watford question, with how much Nasir Little plays and all those things, like eventually there's going to be some decisions. But I think I agree with you. Having more good players than can play each night is actually a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah. And I think Drew has to play now.
Yeah.
Drew's been so good. Good.
Yeah, he's been really fun. I kind of was like, I really like Drew as a person. Like I enjoyed just like talking with him, and I really like Drew as a story, but I was kind of like, yeah, he's not, he's got some limitations. He's surpassed all of my skepticism. Like he can help. I agree that he should probably be almost every single night. You need him to play real minutes, and he's been totally functional to filling in for Nurk for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Trendon's been really good in his minutes since he's gotten back from injury. You forget how smart he is. He just makes a lot of the right reads and plays, and that's also like, I feel like the IQ level of this group is so much higher than we've seen in the last couple of years, because
last year's team was as stupid as you could be. It felt like they would make 6 or 7 plays. It was just like, what is happening? So yeah, I'm with you.
And because I felt they were playing for themselves.
Yep.
Particularly, and I'm talking about early in the season before they blew it all up.
Yeah, pre December 31st. Yeah.
Yeah, they were guys looking for their own shot, looking, to get theirs. Like, oh, it's my turn to get my shot. This group really is smart, I feel like, in how they run the plays and the patience they show in getting the right shot. It's really been fun to watch.
Yeah, they've listened. The thing you mentioned from my Twitter account is like a big thesis of the podcast is like, hold on to your joy. Like most teams lose. Most like sports are fleeting and painful and frustrating. So like the Blazers have been really good. Just like I'm going to spend a lot of time analyzing it because that's the place where that's what I do here. It's what someone pays me to do. But like just the simplest solution is obviously simplest explanation is the best. Like this team's fun. Enjoy how fun they've been. I'll say Jason Quick, not always known for appreciating the fun. He can be a little bit of a curmudgeon. So if Jason is telling you to embrace your joy, you really got to hold on to it. Also, I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon too for keeping it honest.
I've watched this team for a long time, Mike.
You've been around the block.
And it jumps out when there's something special. And I think this is something special. This has been really fun. I'm not here to tell you that, come April, it's still going to be this great and this fun, but that's why they play the games. And that's why I can't wait to go to the arena to watch them play the Spurs, see if this ride keeps going and it continues to be fun. But so far, what has happened here in these first 13 games, really special stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right. People should embrace it and don't nitpick it and start thinking about who should we trade and who do they need to bring in. way too early for that stuff. Let this breathe. Let's see what it becomes. And while we're doing that, let's enjoy it and realize that there's probably 28 to 27 other fan bases that would love to have this team, would love it.
Yeah.
More than theirs.
Yeah. 100%. This is, I don't know that like everyone in the national media has caught on, but this is one of the best stories in the NBA right now. So if you are a Blazer fan and you're paying close attention, enjoy it, because this has been a really fun group. Jason, thanks for lending us some of your time today. I'm going to let you go so you can go watch Monday Night Football, which was
okay, Mikey.
Which was your preference?
Best,
when you texted me, you said, as long as I can be done for football, and I said, I'll do it for you, bud.
Best luck on the baby front, man.
Hey, thanks. Any day now.
Pulling for you guys. Yep.
Appreciate you. Dear listeners, subscribe to The Athletic. Jason dude still got it. He's definitely worth reading. You're gonna appreciate the subscription if you subscribe to Jason's work. A strong recommend from me. Come back for tomorrow's show. Blazers play the Spurs. We will talk all about that one. Thursday they play the Brooklyn Nets. We'll talk all about that one 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts. So go subscribe, like, all those things, and then tell your friends to do the same. Make it your first listen. How about you make your second listen Locked On Sports Today? It's a 22-minute podcast covering everything you know from all the major sports leagues in just 22 minutes. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.